The melodies in my soul.
Welcome to the Boise State Esports Arena. Today you're joining us for our Smash Cycling event. We have got an invitational for you today where an old rivalry, Idaho versus Boise State, is going to come alive for us tonight in the form of Smash Cycling. My name is Jacob Palmer. I'm your host. I'll be calling all the action for you today. And I am joined by Frank Garcia from Smash Cycling. Frank, this is the first time we've had an event like this at the arena, so a lot of people watching might not quite know what we're introducing them to. So tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be seeing here today and how it overall plays into Formula C racing.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Basically, Smash Cycling has four distinct areas. One is a straight cycling simulation, very detailed simulation, right down to tire pressure. Then we have Zen C Chill, which is sort of spa day, rest day cycling. Then we have workouts. And then today what we're focused on is Formula C. And you can sort of think of Formula C as a blend of Formula 1 and Mario Kart. So you'll have tire compounds and things that you can change out on your bike to make you go faster or slower for longer or shorter durations, just like Formula 1. And then we'll also have power-ups and strategic elements of the game as well, so a little bit more gamified in that particular area.
Tell us a little bit more about the power-ups and how players use them and when they can use them.
So typically in competitions like this, the power-ups that we give people are the same. So it's more about the strategy of how you use them. And those power-ups would be things like you can crash in corners. So one might be a corner caper, which allows you to go through a corner at high speed, so you don't have to slow down. So the question is, when do you use those? Typically, you'll find more value in those on the downhills than on the uphills, where you're going to tend to go slow, but sometimes you can crash going uphill as well if you're putting a lot of power into the pedals. And then there'll be wind at your back, and there's a variety of power-ups in the game. And so part of learning to be good at the Formula C portion of the game is understanding what those power-ups are. There's another one like inertia, so you could sprint, get up to high speed, and then kick in your inertia, and that will maintain your speed for 10 seconds. Let's say that's all configurable in the game for each of the power-ups for any given event.
Well, if you look at the stage behind us, you can see Boise State and Idaho loaded in, ready to go. We're going to be heading down to the first stage, Cyclogen City. This is a pretty long one, a bit of a doozy. I'm looking at over 10 miles of track. So overall, I'm told this is a medium skill map. Tell us a little bit about what that means and how maps are rated on skill.
So maps are rated on two fronts in terms of skill. One is how many corners they have and how much you'll need to slow down for those corners. So the tighter the corners and the more the corners, the more the skill will go up. And you can also have obstacles in the Formula C portion of the game, as well as simulation. So you might find a pothole or a rock or something like that in the road that would knock you over. So you need to avoid those. And depending on how many of those there are in a given map, the skill level will rise up. So you've got a medium skill map here because you've got some really tight corners that will catch people by surprise because they tend to follow long stretches of areas where you don't have to worry about crashing, but you have no obstacles on this map.
You can see a little bit of a background between the two events. Our own Doc Haskell, head coach of Boise State Esports, competed in master cycling events, 36 races with high finishes, but he is not confident in his team's ability. So thank you, Doc. It's always nice for a coach to give his team a good pep talk and say that you're not confident in them. Meanwhile, from the University of Idaho, the Vandals come into this event well-trained, experienced, and ready to ride, unlike their opponents on the stage, who broke one of their two bikes 2 minutes into warm-ups. And all fair ribbing aside, people watching this might be wondering how they can get involved in Smash Cycling. I mean, obviously we have a very complex setup ahead of us, but what do you need at home if you're watching to get involved in all of this?
Basically, you either need a bike with a trainer or a stationary bike that can communicate via Bluetooth to the computer, and then we can virtualize it from there.
All right, let's get down to the field. We can see the event starting in Cyclogen City. Right now, temperature set at a balmy 15 degrees Celsius. For those of you red-blooded Americans, that's 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Not too cold, but not too hot either. And we can also see the names of everyone being loaded in there on the top right. Wayne Eben Roth Jr. And tell us a little bit about kind of the main landmarks that we're going to be wanting to watch out for as we head through.
So here we're going to go through the city. There'll be one or two tight corners to navigate in the city, but pretty straightforward while you're in the city. Then we're going to cross the dam, and we're going to go into a more rural section. When you cross the dam, there'll be some turns that you need to navigate, but then you're going to go along the ridge and with the river down below. And when you get to the bottom of that, you're going to have some very tight turns where I think we'll see some crashing, and we'll see if, for instance, Wayne here is building up a little bit of a lead, and then the question will become, will he stay upright or will he crash and give his lead away after expending all that energy?
Now, this map says that it climbs over 142 feet. Is that in one climb, or is that spread out through the entirety?
That would be spread out through the entirety.
All right. I did notice it seems like the downhill section is going to be that second set of hairpins that we see about 3/4 of the way in there. So I would be imagining that that would be a time like you'd maybe want to use your cornering power-up to make sure you don't crash.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's in Cyclogent City, there'll be a series of very tight corners, one after the other. And then using the power-up, what will be interesting there is can you time it right, and can you, for instance, sprint through all of the corners and get through those corners before the power-up runs out. So what you'll see a lot of times is people will go for it, and that will cause them to crash right towards the very end. So it'll be interesting to see how the power-ups are used today.
Here we're taking a look at Gabriel Reynolds, a junior from Boise State. He's a computer science major looking for an internship. Although right now, based on his placements, maybe he wants to get a little bit higher on the scoreboard before he tries to impress us with asking for internships. Meanwhile, at the front, we are seeing one of the Vandals leading the pack, starting to exit the city. We see that the two power-ups on this map are going to be Corner Caper and Inertia. So we already talked a little bit about when you would want to use Corner Caper. Where does Inertia come into play?
Well, usually the way that you want to use Inertia is you want a nice flat, straight area where you don't have to make any turns, because once you kick in Inertia, you can't turn it off, which means you'll crash in a corner. So usually you set up for a long straight, and you sprint at the beginning of that straight and go as absolutely fast as you can. So you sort of go all in on the sprint. Then you lock in your top speed by invoking the power-up and ride it out. And during that time, you get to recover as well. So that's one of the ways to play the game as well.
Currently looking at the leader of the pack, Wayne Ebenroth Jr., junior from Idaho, University of Idaho, currently leading the pack. We're talking so much about elevation changes and cornering. How is that simulated in the cycling that these competitors are doing right now on the stage?
So you can use the game both with a what they call just a standard trainer, and then also a smart trainer. A smart trainer will change its resistance as you go up and down the inclines. So you'll get to feel that in your legs just like you would outdoors.
Now, I'm told that this also has night riding options. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that and what might differ if you choose to ride in day or night?
So basically, what differs there is the amount of visibility that you have, just like you would outdoors. So we, for instance, this is daytime in Cyclogent City. I tend to like Cyclogent City better at night because it's got cool lighting, and I like the graphics around that. But other than the visibility, pretty much the same.
Here's another Boise State Bronco, Carter Jones, currently in 5th, sophomore, studying computer science and GIM, spreading himself out between those two coding-related majors. According to this, his interests are gaming, watching The Office, and working out with Matt Merck. And a lot of people might be, looking at some of the competitors, seeing, competitors from both universities in pretty good shape, and some people might asking, well, do you have to be fit and a cyclist to enjoy Smash Cycling?
No, one of the great aspects of Smash Cycling is what we call Pro Power, and so we, if you will, handicap the power. We take the power, and if you're below a pro, because you're not a pro, we elevate your power to that of a pro, and so everybody is sort of on equal terms. And so what you'll see here is Wayne took off very strong at the beginning, and he was putting out like 600 watts, and you can kind of see him fading. Now, he's probably fading for two reasons. One, there's the physical element of his body wanting to slow down a little bit, and then the second part is the game is always analyzing your power, and it's saying, you're putting out an awful lot of power, so I'm going to reduce your pro power curve. And that's why you would see other people starting to catch him. And this is, it's probably about a 25-minute ride. And so the interesting part will be, did he go too fast, too early, and burn up, and also cause pro power to reduce his power a little bit while it's raising other people's power? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. And this is where crashing will come to the fore as well, because he's built up a nice lead here, 14, 15 seconds, which is quite a bit to overcome. But one crash, and the people behind him will be on top of him very quickly.
And I assume that's all the information that we're seeing in the overlay right now. You can see beside each player's names, we got kilometers per hour, and then heart rate, I'm assuming, too?
That is heart rate, and it looks like most of the people today aren't wearing their heart rate monitors. It looks like Randy is, but the last number is their power output. That's their pro power output, so that's their modified power output to be equivalent to a pro. Now, Wayne looks like he's very comfortable in the corners there. He's slowed down and maybe a little overslowed, but that, I think, is the right strategy for him at this particular point, being out front, play it safe. No need to go down, so he's doing quite well.
Entering the first set of switchbacks going uphill. We got that second one going downhill, so getting pretty close to the summit of this stage as we're about halfway through.
Yes, and the second half of this, you do go downhill, and you go through some switchbacks downhill. That makes them quite difficult because you've got to brake well ahead of time. But then you have a nice mild climb to the finish, but you're also tiring at that particular point in time. So the last the last third of this particular race is a bit of a struggle. It's a great map showing both sort of the urban and the rural areas together as well.
Still a pretty solid lead being maintained by Evan Roth Jr. as he has just one more switchback to go. Then we'll have this long, pretty straight section. And is this normally where I think we might see kind of a real power try to come out, where someone really tries to book it in the straight sections?
Absolutely. And we've got quite a bit of separation. So normally what you might see here is Boise State getting together as a group and rotating through the front so that they get the drafting benefits. That's all simulated. I don't see that so much here, but if they were to gather together as a group during that long arc and straight period before the descent, they could make up an awful lot of ground because what you also see here is Idaho is also separated and not using good team tactics from a drafting perspective.
Oh, and there's the first crash that we actually see on camera. Going to be heading on to Terracotta. But not too much for really the Vandals to worry about. They're all bunched up 1, 2, and 3, whereas the Broncos are the trailing bottom 3 of this tournament. When you're trailing by as much as 1 to 2 minutes, what can you do to get back in the game at that point? Because it's quite a lead.
That will be difficult to overcome. What you'll see is, again, hopefully they can get together and work together, but maybe they haven't put enough practice in to those comments that Doc was making a little bit earlier. But what you will see is, as the events progress, you should see them become more equalized as well.
Hayden rounding the first of many switchbacks he has to make. Currently behind Carter Jones. And depending on where all of these cyclists place, they'll be awarded points based on their placement. Yeah, so one of the concepts that Smash Cycling has that's a little bit different than some of the other indoor cycling games is we have playlists. This is a playlist, and the playlist can be scored. In this case, obviously, it's a competition, so they are scored. And so you earn points. We have different multipliers for the different events.
And based on the multiplier and your finishing position, we assign points to the team as a whole and then to each individual. This is a team competition, so overall we'll get to see how the teams are doing as well.
Well, Carter Lyric Jones for the Broncos, the least terrible of the blue for right now, has just about a minute off of the head leader, and so I think we could see kind of maybe a last-minute move. I don't want to predict too many things, but maybe a crash or two on the downward switchbacks might be what Carter needs to make up some ground. And here we see Hayden Dalton Jr. from Boise State studying gaming interactive media. His hobbies include reading, arguing League of Legends skins, and Dungeons & Dragons. Boy, do I know how long he can go on discussions about that. I'm speaking from experience here.
I imagine he likes the new release. I think it's called Baldur's Gate. What is that game?
Oh, the Baldur's Gate 3?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people have really been going crazy over that game just in terms of how complete and well put together it seems out of the box. No downloads or DLC really needed. But let's get back to cycling as we see Amelia Green rounding out the Vandals lineup. We can see that she's a freshman studying environmental sciences, and hobbies involve reading, writing, and hiking, which I'm pretty sure that hiking makes me think we're going to see good things for the Vandals if already they're the outdoorsy type.
Absolutely, and I think what you can see here is I think Terracotta went down, and that really gave Wayne the berth to sort of pull out at front, and so unless he makes some horrendous mistakes, I think he's got this one sewn up. But you do have Amelia now pursuing Terracotta, and you can see this is a very long straight stretch, so she can lay down the power, but it looks like Terracotta is upping her power as well and trying to get to that descent. So typically here on this particular map, you can go very hard here because you're going to get a big rest when you hit the descent.
Well, you were saying we saw about 600 watts from first place Wayne Abernroth Jr., but he's been sticking to 400 for the remainder of the match, so really hasn't pushed himself as far as he did, just kind of going to be a little bit steady trying to finish this one out. I think we really see Terracotta and Amelia are now pushing over 500, so they're making moves to shore up their leads as well.
Absolutely, and one of the things a pro cyclist, of course it depends on the pro cyclist, but on average there's a thing called FTP, which is functional threshold. That wattage in our game is 421 watts. Great use of a power-up there by Wayne. So Wayne definitely looks to be the most skilled. Very good use of how long that's lasting. Now we'll see he's slowing down because his power-up is probably going to, So really good skill there by Wayne. So Wayne's got both energy in terms of power and endurance, and it looks like he's also got the strategic skill.
Carter also making moves, is now in fourth, and Wayne takes a spill around the corner. Good thing it's around one of these corners and not a little bit of a ways back where we saw that deep drop off to the side. It's a good thing this virtual cycling because I don't think that would be OSHA compliant.
That would be painful in real life. I've done it myself numerous times, and it's never any fun.
Terracotta also takes a spill, so even the top players are really starting to take spills around these switchbacks, which I have to wonder, with as slow as Boise State is going, maybe that might be the little bit of silver lining that they have. They can make those corners a bit easier.
May be the case, but those are some fairly tight corners, so it'll be interesting to see how they do going through there. We see Terracotta using a couple of combined power-ups. That's a good use of power-ups there as well. If you can really get up to speed and use your inertia and your corner caper at the same time, you can definitely make it through lots of corners.
Terracotta, though, as soon as both those power-ups wear out, he takes another spill. Sent back to 0 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, Wayne, aside from that one, hasn't had too much problem on these switchbacks. Carter is coming up on them, though, so I think that's really where we're going to see if they can equalize this. He's already taken his first spill.
Yep, closing in, but he took a spill. Anyway, back to functional threshold just real quick. It's 421 watts, Jacob, and so what happens there is that's what a person can hold for 1 hour. So that's a steady state for 1 hour. So obviously for short periods of time you can go above 421, but if you try and maintain that for very long, your body just starts building up lactic acid and shutting down. And so basically 421 would be sort of the sweet spot for what you could hold for an hour.
Amelia making moves has now positioned herself into second place. Meanwhile, Wayne is just booking it down the hill, already past all the switchbacks. And now he's not going to have any more of kind of that downhill advantage to himself. Just a little bit of an uphill climb before he gets to the finish.
So usually you can make up about 10 seconds per kilometer. So that would be about 37 seconds. So he's comfortable position. He should be secure for the win on this map, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in the following maps as well.
I mean, see, this is one of those corners where you would not want to be spilling over the side if this was real life.
No, absolutely, and it does make it fun. I think one of the interesting parts about crashing in a cycling simulation, and this is part of the Formula C makeup, you're going to tend to crash a lot more in Formula C, and it can be a little bit frustrating if you're a physical cyclist putting in physical effort. So it feels a little bit different than in your standard game, let's say, Gran Turismo or something like that. You pay a little bit higher price, but when you do get good at cornering, it's a fantastic feeling. So I think Carter's going to have a pretty straight shot here. Carter can go hard here because it's going to be a straight period for quite some time. So if Carter's got the ability to sort of put in the watts here, he's got a very good chance of catching the person in front of him.
Yeah, Carter's really starting to close the gap on Terracotta, only 7 seconds behind. Wayne Ebenroth Jr. going through the first of the turns once you get back into the city. But overall, since we judge these scenes on how many points each team is able to get as a whole, Carter coming in third would definitely at least keep the Broncos in the running. I also noticed that we have multipliers for different tracks. I assume that's for the points that they get for this Grand Prix?
That is correct. So we tend to do that as a blend of how much skill is in the map, and then also how much power or the length of time. You can see people starting to struggle a bit. This has been quite a long activity, and you tend to put a lot of power out in a competition, and your legs start burning, you start breathing hard, and you're starting to see that in the athletes now.
For everyone except Wayne, I would argue, he's still pushing near 500 watts and is just booking it through the corn, the wheat. What fields do you want to call these?
I will go with wheat.
Okay, the wheat fields. What's kind of the general background on how these stages are created, how they're modeled, and how obstacles are decided?
These are curated maps that we're playing today. Most of the Formula C maps are curated. The cycling simulation side, you can actually load up any fit file and it will build a map and the details around that map. So a lot of procedural art for those techie types out there. And so that's both sides. The Formula C side tends to be more curated. We'll see some of those. I think we see Cade Kart Paris, which is like inside a warehouse in a karting course.
Oh, a nasty double spell way at the back of the Broncos. Take the camera away. I can't bear to see a performance like this. Or we could just play it again in super slow motion through the miracle of television just to rub salt in the wound. Or we're just going to see a split screen. Here you can see we've got Wayne Ebenroth Jr. just booking it down the field. Meanwhile, in the bottom left corner, we've got the camera of shame.
Very interesting. I'm still looking at Carter. I'm pulling for Carter. We'll see if Carter can hold the watts steady as she goes. Maybe like 475 watts would be ideal at this point. That's something you can hold for a while. Whereas if you sprint harder, basically your body wants to take a break before it continues. And at 10 seconds back, he's got a chance. He could make up about 40 seconds in 4 kilometers. So we'll see how that plays. We'll press Carter to really be putting in the power and see how much he can suffer That's what makes a great cyclist, suffering typically, and that's certainly the case in a game that equalizes your power for sure.
We're closing in on the final stretch for Wayne Ebenroth Jr. I have to imagine that he has only about 1 kilometer to go, getting cheered on by all the Vandals fans out there. So he only has a couple more corners to go, and then he'll just have one final turn and a pretty straightaway shot to book it. Here we see Lyric, Boise State's best hope right now, having about 2 kilometers to go, just on the tail of Terracotta. Wayne Ebenroth has just a few more turns to go, then he can turn back into the city, cross the finish line, and score. I'm seeing the multiplier is 1.5 here, so that would be 45 points he'd get.
Yes, and I think what they'll do is tend to be higher multipliers towards the end as well. So definitely a chance to come back. That's part of the strategy of playlists is how much energy did the Vandals burn and how much did they save for later? So they're looking a little bit tired, sort of hands on your hips, bent over. Sitting up straight is also an indication that you're starting to tire a tad. And maybe this is just Boise's strategy to save energy for the higher multiplier events and really put it to Idaho in those events.
We'll just have to see if it's all part of their grand strategy. Meanwhile, Wayne Ebenroth Jr. still pushing through, managing an average of around 450 watts. Is up to 700 for a second there, so he's really starting to put in his final push to claim first.
Definitely has the sense of a competitive cyclist. You know, eyes on the prize and just going hard. And I love to see that just finishing strong. But we'll see if there's a bit of a price paid at the end in the following events.
Getting very close to the end. I mean, has over a minute and a half lead on all the others. Is going to use his cornering power up to just take this corner at high speed. Finish line in sight. Less than 1/10 of a kilometer to go, and I'm pretty confident in saying that's the first 45 points scored for University of Idaho.
Absolutely, and really a great ride by Wayne, and so he could play on the world stage in Smash Cycling, and I think he'd be competitive.
This is where I'm really glad that we have that finish line cam, because they were so close, you never know when it's going to come to a judge's decision.
Yes, I absolutely needed the cam there for a minute 45 win.
Now, I think here's where we might need the cam, although Carter has been faltering. He's now about 30 to 40 seconds behind place 1 and 2, so we could see a clean sweep from the Vandals in the first stage.
I think the Vandals definitely had more endurance. This was definitely more of an endurance challenge at the start, and they're going to walk away with it. But we're going to jump into Cade Cart Paris next, which won't require very much power at all. It's a full skill map, and we'll see if things stay the same. Now, it looks like Wayne had a lot of skill as well, and so might be good in both areas there.
Getting ready to go into Cade Cart Paris this stage, a lot smaller than Cyclogen City, only about 1.3 miles, but it is 3 laps to make up for that. And I'm told it's a track stage, so tell us a little bit about what that entails.
So here you'll really get more of the Formula C feel. You're going to be inside of a go-kart warehouse track, so indoor karting, if you will. You might have done that. I enjoy that myself. It's lots of fun. So you're going to have a fairly steep climb at one point, but basically this is about tight corners and not going down.
If they do go down, how much time roughly does that affect? How much time on average does crashing affect your overall score?
I would say your first crash, you're probably going to lose about 7 seconds. Depends on how energetic you are. Usually somebody crashing will get up and they'll really smash the pedals for a bit and try and catch back into the event. But then each time you crash, it becomes harder and harder to do that. So if you crash again, maybe you're going to lose 8 to 10 seconds, and that'll kind of grow each time you crash. Now, the other thing that tends to happen is once you've crashed, you tend to push too hard and you continue crashing. So the best thing to do if you crash is to really remain calm and actually probably try and back off a little bit, because you're going to be naturally looking to go hard.
You can already see the reflections of some of the sweat, most notably on Lyric. I'm not seeing that on either Hayden or Gil, so that probably tells us something about the overall time that they put in.
Yeah, I think Gil was a little more gamer and a little less athlete in the last race, and so we'll see if that's a little bit different.
Well, he is a Rocket League player. He's too used to driving around in virtual cars rather than virtual bikes.
Yes, and as I mentioned, same with Gran Turismo and those sorts of things. They're not as physically demanding as a physical esport like you're seeing here.
Have you ever had a finger cramp? I think you're underselling the potential dangers that you could have playing those other games. Those can hurt.
Yes, when I play my son, my thumbs hurt, and I can't even play well with him. But he's also good on a bike, so I can't really beat him too much there either.
All right, we're off to literal races as Idaho pulls away as a cohesive unit. Boise State trailing currently. A lot more turns. These turns look very slick. How do you go navigating them?
Well, that is the hard part of this. You really, it's a rhythm to ride these courses typically. You just find your rhythm. You have to really know the course and sort of have memorized the corners. Otherwise, it becomes quite difficult to continue in those particular rides. And you can see here, very smart play, very sharp corners, and you've got Wayne going very slow. You've got Amelia right there, and so if Wayne makes a mistake, Amelia will go by them quite well. And you see she's closing the gap. This is a little bit of the uphill. Now we come to a tricky downhill. There's 2 left-hand turns and then a sharp right turn at the bottom of a hill. I expect to see some crashing there.
Question is, how much crashing will befall the Vandals? And do my eyes deceive me? Has Heck frozen over? Because Hayden Dalton is actually in 3rd, beating one of the Vandals. So putting in a little bit of a show for the Broncos. I'm sure in turns this tight, they would wish that they could have their corner caper power-ups, but for this particular map, we don't have any power-ups for these players.
Well, I've just been informed that Boise State was scratched in the last event. They got 0 points. And Idaho University, 118.5. So
okay, so bad to worse, basically.
Yes, so Boise has a lot of ground to make up. But again, with the multipliers, definitely something that can be had.
Just have to see how it turns out. Wayne Abernoth Jr. still not faltering at all. Here we see Carter Jones bringing up the rear of the pack. In contrast, there go the Vandals. They even managed to get their logo on a few of the jerseys for a nice little bit of customization.
Yes, people tend to like to see their jerseys in game, so that's one of the things that we do.
Definitely starting to see the fatigue set in for some of the players on stage, but pushing through nonetheless. We're going to have the final lap warning as the leader crosses the finish line. Ready to get even more points for the Vandals.
Well, and you guys have cowbells out in the audience. Definitely you want to ring those. That's typically what happens in cycling races as the last lap of a crit starts.
Okay, someone was hearing, but they were a little bit indecisive
Yes.
on it. They were kind of judging whether it was too much after you said so, whether it would be awkward, or want to just make it even more awkward by trying to ring it now. Either way, Hayden putting in a pretty respectable performance at 3rd, keeping up with most of the Vandals. Right now, the Broncos' best chance at getting some points on the board. All of them in their final lap. Carter now starts his final lap, so everyone is now in lap 3. We'll have this race all done and dusted pretty soon.
Well, I think it's, as you can see, and I think as the event goes on, you'll actually see Boise move up, and this is a good indication of that. So Hayden definitely making some progress. and also showing some skill.
He'll have to maintain this lead. Terracotta is making quite a move on here in the final stage. Just a couple more turns to go. Let them take the inside of the turn. Moving on into the final home stretch. Terracotta, I think he's gaining little by little. Has to slow down. I think that this section right here, it's the straightest section before the finish line. Oh, and he crashes, takes a nasty spill. Hayden's going to secure third place for the Broncos.
Absolutely. Now he just has to remain calm and get past the finish line and not crash, and he'll be all good.
It looks like that is the case. Boise State finds their way onto the podium in that one. Hayden getting third. That'll be a cool 23 points. Doesn't quite match the over the 100 that Idaho already has, but it's a start.
You got to start somewhere. At least you're off a 0.
At least they are off a 0, so they aren't going to finish this with a goose egg. We're now going to be moving on to race 3.
I think Doc is sweating more than Gil.
You know what? That's an excellent point. I think we definitely need to take a look into that later on.
I don't know. We might need to get Doc on that bike here pretty soon.
We might need to. The Broncos might need all the help that they can get. I mean, this is...
He's doing some serious coaching there, though. Look at that. I like that.
He is trying. Here we can see a look at all the points that everyone has gotten. And, yeah, Idaho really just on a complete tear. So even... I doubt that even if Idaho had zeros from here on out, Boise State would be able to catch up.
Well, you'd be surprised what those multipliers will do. Now, Idaho's getting a little overconfident maybe. There's all smiles and high-fiving going on over there. Look see, they might be a little overconfident, so Boise might have an opportunity yet.
Well, the next stage is called Going to the Sun Road Smash. And what does the word smash mean since it's in the name of this track?
Well, part of Smash Cycling is the ability for us to take iconic courses. Going to the Sun Road is in Glacier National Monument, famous cycling place. And what we do is it's a big climb, has like 20% climbs, very hard to do in real life. And if we did it the same virtually, it would be very hard to do virtually. We actually have the full-size version as well. But we find that people typically like to ride the smashed versions, which are reduced in size to a fifth of their normal size. So you can do them sort of, instead of riding for a couple of hours, you can ride for 40 minutes. It's much more doable in a normal period of time and fits much more into a normal workout routine.
What are some of the other iconic maps in Smash Cycling that a lot of people like to go on?
So one of the things that we've been doing with regards to iconic maps is also doing stage races. So you'd have the tour replicated but smashed, so it would be a fifth the size, so us mere mortals can ride that course. We do the same for the Giro and the Vuelta, and whatever iconic courses they're covering, the Tourmalet, so on and so forth, Alpe d'Huez, you'll see in the game as well.
I do hear from Doc. He's saying get ready, so we're loading in, ready to start. On your marks, get set, go, and they are off. Amelia taking the early lead right out of the gate, and there are a bunch of power-ups for this one here that everyone's picking up.
Yeah, and Carter did a really good job there, but missed the power-up because it got taken by a vandal. Perfect term there for stealing the power-up. And now he's going to be a little bit behind with regards to that. But he's holding his own well, and we'll see how that power-up turns. That power-up is Razor's Edge, which basically turns you into the width of a razor, which in cycling is very important because it changes your aerodynamics dramatically, and you're able to go much faster.
Look at this. Carter Jones just keeping neck and neck with the leaders, Wayne and Amelia. Not following behind. Despite the fact that he got no power-up, he's still managing to keep up with them. Of course, it does help he's getting a bit of a draft from sticking behind. Going in the move on the outside, takes first place, and the Broncos lead for the first time today.
Absolutely. And as I said, as this event goes on, a couple of things will be happening. Boise State will calm down with regards to their cornering and whatnot, and also the game will be equalizing everybody, so they'll get an opportunity there as well.
Doesn't hurt that he also had at his fingertips. They do have the Great Responsibility power-up, which drastically increases the power that they can put out. Right now, Carter Jones not even using that power-up, but pushing 750.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carter here has found his legs. Good map to find your legs on. There's a big climb coming up here after we go through some technical sections. And as long as he stays upright, he's got a 4-second lead. Now, Wayne and Amelia could be working together. But again, what you're going to see, and he picks up a power up there off of the road. When you're in front, it's a little bit easier to do that. Those are all the way across the road. And what you'll see here now is Carter did not burn the amount of energy that Boise burnt in that first event. And so this starts to become strategic. So we could see Carter performing very well through to the end of the event.
Another great reason why he would want to perform well on this stage is that the multiplier is up to 2. That's the highest that it's going to be today. So all of a sudden, that 30 can turn into a whopping 60 for the Broncos, which will do wonders in helping them close that gap that the Vandals have opened up.
Yeah, they're only 155 points down, so they really do have a chance still with the multipliers. Now, he didn't steer and pick up that attack dog, which makes sense because attack dog only helps you if you're in a secondary position. It doesn't help you as the leader. It gives you 50 watts per rider in front of you, up to 10 riders. Now, I think he's going to pick this one up. What that does strategically is it keeps the Vandals from being able to get it as well, and so they can't pair up. And you see Wayne is taking a little bit of umbrage and starting to come back and leave Amelia behind, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays.
He goes to pick up the power plant power-up that boosts his power output by 200. You kind of can see a little bit of the strategy coming in of some power-ups might be placed a little bit more toward the outside of turns, so you're not taking really the ideal racing route, but you are picking up power-ups that can help you. And
yeah.
Coming up on the razor wire again, he'll pick that up.
Now that will be very helpful. So if Wayne uses that at the appropriate spot, you don't want to use it typically right before turns because you're just going to either have to go too slow and burn the power up or it's going to cause you to crash. But if he saves that for a straight area, he will make easy work of that 7 seconds.
A little bit of an overhead shot, showing third and fourth place, Terracotta and Amelia respectively. Wayne wants to get back second place, already used the razor wire, but Carter is still staying in the lead.
Yeah, Carter is on fire right now. So I think Carter wants to at least gain one victory for Boise State, and he's in good stead to do that. Now, this is 2 laps, so endurance will become part of the play as well here. So we've still got quite a ways to go in this event. So we're only really about a quarter of the way done. So you do have to measure your effort in cycling, just as you would in running, and so we'll see how that plays over time.
Here we see an excellent demonstration of what they call going grandma pace because he hasn't really broken 300 watts at all. Hayden and Gil really struggling to break that threshold.
Gil's waving at you.
I appreciate that. That's something you can tend to do when you're going, the speed of a snail.
Yeah, well, I think this would be where Gil could really show his heart, and if he wants one of those internships that he's looking for, he can really show how much power he can put into the pedals for a while, and how much he's looking for that.
I'll be more than happy to just stay up here in the observation tower eating my cheeseburger and judging all the cyclists on their athletic abilities.
Well, one of the nice things, I always say that there is a sort of a salad and protein crowd. I'm more of a burger man myself, and so one of the nice things about the handicapping system within Smash Cycling is I can still eat a burger, and I don't always have to be doing salad and protein.
I mean, really, that's maybe the course of action for Hayden and Gil. Maybe just eat anything right now, some sort of fuel.
Well, or maybe just drink an espresso. something with some caffeine might help.
Meanwhile, Carter using 2 more power-ups, the Power Plant and Razor. He's basically picking up everything that already benefits him in first place, and he's keeping them away from Idaho for the time being.
Great strategy. He's also using them at a good place to use them because he's got a lot of straight. I think Wayne was a little too anxious on using the Razor's Edge in the corners, and so he had to sort of say going slow so he didn't get the full advantage of that particular power-up.
Now, we've seen it come out a little bit beforehand. We've seen drafting help some players get a speed boost, and I wanted to ask, how much benefit do the racers get from drafting in this game?
So the more people that are directly in front of you, the higher benefit that you get. But if you're directly behind just one other player, you're getting about a 33% benefit, so which means you have to put in a quarter or 25% less power. And that is a huge savings over time. And if you have the full team, the back person might be getting a 50% reduction in power necessary to maintain, and that can really work to your advantage over time. Now, with the shorter events like we had in Cade Kart Paris, those tend to be sharp and quick and not so much endurance. But obviously the first one, lots of endurance in that one. And you do have the endurance play in going to the Sun Road Smashed. Even though it's smashed, they're doing 2 laps, so they will burn some energy here.
Carter has no benefit of any sort of power-ups to use at the moment, but still pushing out, not really falling below 400 watts.
Well, and I think you can see Wayne is really starting to struggle. And so it'll be interesting to see how much power Wayne can hold on to. Now, he looks like he's pulling away from his teammates as well. So we'll see how that works as well. I think this is Carter on the front, right?
Yep.
So Carter's looking good. Looks like he's pretty fit.
I think we can just do a general rule of thumb. If we see someone in a blue jersey near the front of the pack, it's Carter.
I think at the moment that's very true. But we're gonna pull for Gil and for Hayden to get in there and show us how it's done in the next map as well.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask, we've seen kind of a little bit of the different jerseys that people can wear, but what are all the customization options that are available to players in Smash Cycling?
So Smash Cycling, pretty much full avatar control, so you can modify your avatar in terms of its body size, hair, standard sort of gaming stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of kits in the game. Ranging anywhere from country kits, so you can sort of wear the flag of your country, to team kits for teams that are in the game as well. And then we have some fun ones. So we have like a donut kit, which I always hate getting beat by when somebody beats me in the donut kit, but we have some fun ones as well.
Now, what happens in terms of power-ups when racers don't have any empty slots to pick up a power-up, but they still run into one?
So the power-up is you can't pick it up if you don't have any empty slots. So that's part of the strategy on a course like this where we're dropping power-ups in the road. So we can both just assign power-ups at the beginning. They can be randomly assigned to you during the activity, or we can place them on the road, and then it's basically a race to see who can pick up the power-up.
Currently looking at the Vandals, just trying to tough it out, maintain good positioning. Whole bunch of power-ups used by Wayne. Probably realizes this is one of his last chances to really make a good move to try to catch up to Carter on this straightaway.
Yeah, that was a good play there. And again, he came to a corner. Might have been a little bit better to use it here. I think there's a little bit more of an uphill here where you can gain a lot of time. Because the other cyclists tend to slow down, and it requires an awful lot of power. So if you can use power-ups on the uphill, you're in good shape. But I would say that was a pretty good play by Wayne. Carter holding his own, still about 24 seconds ahead.
We're more than halfway through the stage. Carter just taking a little bit of a breather. He's got enough of a lead that he can pace himself.
Well, and this is really smart by Carter. One of the things that's interesting about smash cycling, because you can crash, is it's more like cycling outdoors, and you will take your rests going through the corners. And so you're not always pedaling. You get a little bit of a break in the corners and in the descents. So much more like real cycling.
A bit of a straightaway that Carter can start to build up his lead even more. Currently has 24 seconds above Wayne.
Yeah, so again, using that rule of thumb, about 1.5 kilometers left. So best case scenario is Wayne could pick up probably about 15 seconds, which means Carter just has to relax and finish this out, save some energy for the next event, and it'll be interesting to see that next event and how Carter and Wayne go head-to-head.
Facing a downhill stretch, Carter taking it a little bit easy. Gil taking a sip of water because he's exerted himself so much today.
Well, now I will say this, Jacob. It's fun sitting up here, but when you're on that bike, your legs do start to burn. It definitely is an athletic activity. So to be fair to Gil, he probably wasn't expecting it to be quite as hard as it is today.
No, I can guarantee I would win if I played this because I'd use an e-bike.
That's yeah.
It's all about tactics and the loadout you bring to the situation.
Yes, Gil was asking about cheat codes earlier, and unfortunately I told him there are none. And so he's living that experience now.
Carter now coming in on the home stretch, less than 1 kilometer to go. Has to just take this final uphill stretch.
Yeah, and you can sort of see Carter looking, when will the uphill end? He's going to be very happy when he gets there and be able to go down. This particular one hurts when you're going up this particular hill, and this is smashed to 1/5 of it. So Carter could be thinking, really like the name Smash Cycling at the moment, because if it was 5 times longer, it would be quite painful.
He has just crested the peak of the hill, though, so all downhill toward the finish line. A lot of the power-ups have been used, so none that can really be brought out here. I think Vandals will have to settle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Still, overall in points, they should have a good lead.
Terracotta doing some emotes, having some fun there. Well, I would say, I hadn't really noticed, but Terracotta is pulling up on Wayne. Yeah, Go Terracotta!
Might actually see a bit of an upset here.
Yeah. Okay, I'm pulling for Terracotta. Let's see if Terracotta can remove the Wayne is the best on the Vandals.
I mean, look at the power levels, the differential. He's constantly over 5. He was up to over 500 watts above Wayne, and it's quickly gaining.
Yes, and you can see he's really pushing on the pedals now. Oh, you got to steer around. So he lost some momentum there, bumping into the back of Wayne. That hurts, but definitely both of them going hard now.
He's got the inside turn as well. Oh, but Wayne really putting the pedal to the metal right now and picks up the power plant power-up.
Oh, that's just mean.
Yeah, nothing for Terracotta, so we did see that. Lyric has taken first place, and so will, with the multiplier, claim 60 points for the Broncos. 2nd place claimed by Wayne and Terracotta, though, so that'll quickly even up those points and keep the Vandals in a pretty good lead.
Yes, I think it's getting harder and harder for Boise to compete for the overall, but they've just won an event, and so that's very exciting for them, and we'll see how the next event looks as well.
Next stage is going to be called Attack the Middle, and I'm told that this is I'm told that we're going to be having wind introduced to the equation.
Yes. Very good cycling simulation. Of course, we're on the Formula C side here. You'll see that in Attack the Middle because this is an obstacle-oriented map. where actually you want to be in the middle because otherwise you'll crash into trucks and various, it's on a construction site, so you'll crash into various construction type equipment. And so you want to be in the middle here, and the fight is to get in front and in the middle. There are some places to pass, so very strategic map. And the uncrashable, very, very important here. You can't crash when that power-up is on, and you can actually just go through objects that are normally solid. And so it will be a very strategic race here. Now, I think I would have to check on the setup here if these are in the road power-ups or if they're what we call abilities, which is when you turn a power-up on for the entire time.
I am saying that these power-ups refill, however, so how does that change the tactics of the overall race?
So you're better at reading the cards than I am, Jacob. That's a good point. What's going to happen here is they're going to get the power-up, they're going to be able to use it, it's going to have the standard cooldown period, and then they'll be able to use it again.
Doc taking a look over the Broncos, seeing that he has one player that can compete and two more. And as of right now, we'll see if they can even up this overall deficit that's been built up in terms of points. This next stage will just be 1 in terms of the multiplier.
So this is a quick stage, and this is part of the strategy. Now, obviously, Boise State's probably got to go strong in all the remaining events. But if you're Idaho here, you could probably take it easier on a 1x multiplier and save up your energy for the last event.
Which will be a 2.5x multiplier. That means that 75 points for first place. Speaking of points, let's take a look at where everyone sits. Carter made quite a move in the final. Could be the only chance, if he is able to take the first place podium or at least get on the podium, it won't be a total disaster today.
I agree. You'd be surprised if he wins the next 2 events, and he looks capable of doing so. Then you'd see him right near the top of the leaderboard.
All right, we're off. Oh, and that's a very narrow squeeze for both players.
Oh, great use of a quantum shift. So what you see here from Wayne is the ability to pass through the other rider who blocked him in that narrow passage. Single track, if you will, on a mountain bike. So we'll see how that plays throughout this particular period. Oh, uncrashable. There, he could have gone right through that. And use a lot of power.
Terracotta has taken the lead. We saw him making a real big effort on the last track and is now really helping the Vandals. They're all competing as the same team, but I can imagine, you want to be first place on your team.
Absolutely. And what you see here, Carter is actually using the draft here. So what he's got is the Vandals all in front of him, but he is benefiting from their work. And as long as he stays at the back there, he will save energy, and this is 3 laps, so maybe he'll make his move sort of halfway through or maybe 2/3 of the way through.
He's already making one.
Yeah,
he's got into third.
He's got to stay with those front guys. Oh, Terracotta, that hurts. But Wayne here is in 3rd place. Amelia now coming to the fore. Carter trying to close that down. And if Carter can get on that wheel, again, he will save the energy.
Now, what's the difference as we go into the concrete bridge here? Do the riders feel any resistance between the dirt and the concrete?
They do, actually. So that is one of the things that's very unique about Smash Cycling. The resistance changes. You feel that resistance change. The surfaces can be wet, and if they're wet, they feel differently as well. So all of that simulation, cycling simulation, is in the game. Even down to how wide your tires are, what kind of knobs you have on your tires, and what sort of tire pressure you use. All of that is part of the simulation.
Now, we have a bit of wind kicking in on this stage, but what other types of weather does Smash Cycling offer?
From a weather perspective, pretty much any weather condition we can simulate, but typically that tends to be rain and wind.
Carter still keeping pace with Amelia. Rounding the final U-turn before the final stage, final lap.
And I think Carter is being intelligent here and just sort of saving the energy. Then you can take it out on the last lap. Now, Amelia trying to get a little bit of separation. Nice attack. Very good bicycle tactics coming from Amelia. But
the quantum shift puts Carter into the lead in the final stage, and he is really attacking turn 1 with vigor.
Absolutely great play. Carter is showing the gaming skills coming to the fore.
And there were his teammates clear back passing under him on the bridge. I appreciate your work, Amber Person. Putting things into perspective, I like it.
Yep, Gil and Hayden do seem to be struggling a bit with the physical aspects, but not Carter. Carter is really developing both the skills, and it looks like he's got the fitness to really play the game.
Still staying ahead, but Amelia, the rest of the Vandals are hot on his tail.
Yeah, Amelia using a power-up there. That's a weightlifting power-up.
Now, I think we might actually see our first lap be brought out here because Carter's about to lap Hayden and Gil coming into turn 7.
Oh, hopefully they'll make the finish line before that happens, and then Carter will be transported to the next event.
Well, he only has one more turn to go. Slight uphill gradient on this, but he is still consistently pushing out more power than the Vandals. So I have to think that Carter is making moves to push himself to at least a podium finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
There he goes. He's got first place. And Terracotta, despite that crash that cost him so much, he was able to clean things up, recover pretty well, and claim second place for himself.
Yeah, very, very nice there. And we see Wayne might be suffering a little bit from some fatigue as Amelia and Terracotta finish in front of him.
All right, Doc leaning in towards his favorite student right now.
Yeah, Gil, that stuff on your forehead is called sweat.
I'm sure he appreciates the info.
Yes, I just thought I would pass that along.
We also positioned the Vandals closer to the big fan in the room here, too. So the fact that the Vandals have more ventilation and still Gil isn't breaking a sweat really says something.
Well, and Carter is as far away as possible from the fan. By the way, that does make a difference. Very nice hosts here at Boise State to put Idaho in the favored position. If I was the coach, I would have put them at the far end and maybe even put up a wall between them and the fan.
Now, what in the name of all that is holy am I looking at right now for lap 5, game 5?
So
the final one.
This is fantastic, Alien C, and kind of an odd graphic here. This is a very difficult course, very technical, lots of uphills. And so although we call it medium skill, I would say this is a higher skill map. No obstacles, I think, is the reason it's a medium skill. And it says some climbing, but this one really does hurt the legs. And you tend to go in these circles uphill, and then you tend to go in some circles downhill, and it's hard to not crash in those particular circles. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, this has a 2.5 multiplier. I think Carter is definitely closing the gap, certainly for himself. And he might have a shot at the overall win at this point. He's only 20 and a half points back. Oh, nope, that's Terracotta. So Carter is still a bit down there. He's 41 points back. Still a chance, but as long as Wayne doesn't totally fade in this event, should be able to stay in front of Carter. Now, Amelia and Terracotta both definitely within striking distance on a 2.5 multiplier.
And then rounding out the rear, we've got Hayden and Boise State Esports number 2, which I think says all that you need to know about the performance that they've put out right now. Let's head into the 5th stage, however, because we've seen a lot of different themes for the tracks. We've seen road, track, mountain bike, and bringing out sci-fi. Are there any themes that we aren't going to see today, but are still available if people are interested in Smash Cycling?
I think that about covers the various themes. There's gravel. So in the more standard cycling simulation area, there's road, mountain, track, gravel, and those are those particular themes as well. And I just have been updated with the score. So the current score is Boise definitely picking up the pace at 164 points, but still trailing quite dramatically, 363 points for Idaho. University of Idaho.
Does look like it will be a runaway victory for the Vandals, but we have got one more track to finish out. Players just getting a bit of a rest, well-needed rest, I would say. Now, will all the climbing in this stage be a factor for the riders? Because it seemed like this was kind of the most extreme I saw in terms of elevation.
It will be. So this one, I'm not quite sure why. I think it's probably the visuals. So you'll have quite dramatic visuals here in terms of a sci-fi oriented map. And you're going in these circles while you're going uphill. And it just seems mentally to be tougher.
Now, I also just want to mention that because the gap between the races is a little bit longer, we'll have time throughout this to hand out a bit of swag. We've got backpacks to the most enthusiastic fan and an apron to the best dressed fan as well, because they want to protect the getup that they brought here. So,
absolutely. I think they're going to go home and do a barbecue after all of this exciting racing. I think they're going to invite Gil. Maybe give him, a hamburger and a hot dog.
Big slice of chocolate cake.
Well, I think he could use a nice chocolate bar about right now.
But he does have a good noodle star that he has.
That's right.
That he has applied to his chest. Boise State doing better than expected, really, all things considered.
Wow. Doc is being hard on the team today.
Well, sometimes you need to apply that tough love to get the best out of your team. All right, we are just closing in on the final stage. I have to ask, since this stage seems a little bit more out there, was it created by the Replicator?
It was not. This is definitely curated by the artists in the game.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, this is a much different look than what you've seen so far.
All right, Amelia off to the quick lead.
Yeah, so this will be interesting to see how Hayden performs on this one. I think a nice measured start, not a bad idea. Save some of that energy for a little bit later on. Amelia, I think I saw her tightening her hair bun right before this, so I think she's very serious about going for the win here.
Now we're going to see why there's such a huge elevation change. So many loops to take. Bunch of switchbacks to just gradually bring these players up to the top.
Well, and the Vandals are starting to look like a team here, and that's going to make it difficult for Hayden. It looked like Hayden was following Gil there for a bit. Hayden, hint, I wouldn't follow Gil. I'd go right around him as quickly as you could. And I hope Gil's a good sport because we have been giving him a bit of a hard time. But a truly special individual. Got a chance to spend some time chatting with him yesterday about computer science, something obviously near and dear to my heart. And I look forward to having more conversations with Gil in the future.
And that really is something that a lot of people wouldn't expect about esports is, you think about video games, you think, oh, we have, obviously it's probably just a bunch of computer science majors. And yeah, we have a good deal of computer science or coding majors, but really it ranges the full gambit here. We've got economics, kinesiology, sometimes media production as well. It's just so many different students come into these programs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that esports is very broad in its inclusion in terms of the types of people that like to play games, and it's great to see that developing more and more over time. So Hayden's back there about 18 seconds, so he's a little bit off the mark, and I'm not sure if he's tiring out or maybe the visuals get him the same way they get me, and this map just seems harder than it is. But the Vandals looking very good.
They're about as bunched up as you could possibly be. Wayne retakes first place.
Yeah, the Vandals definitely showing their teamwork at this point. but maybe as we get into the second lap, they do look to be competitive individually as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays. And I think Wayne wanted to take the win in every event, and so he's showing that here as well.
Well, they all have the benefit of going downhill because we have reached the very top of the stage. Just a few more loops as we head down.
Okay, so we did have a technical as well. So Carter got removed from the event due to some inactivity. You have to sort of keep pedaling in the game to sort of stay there, so that's a bit unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate as the Broncos' only hope fizzles. So now, oh, off the edge, two of them go. Amelia and Wayne both taking a spill.
I think Amelia was the only one not to take a spill, maybe? Nope, I guess you're right, she did.
Still, I mean, they've got such a huge lead, it's not going to be that big of a factor.
I think maybe she waited up. I think they want to finish as a team. That's great team showing.
Oh, Hayden takes a spill, moving him even farther back in the standings. Now we just have one lap to go as they're closing in on the finish line, and then that'll probably be the end of the tournament that we have here today. Vandals looking for a clean sweep of the podium.
Yes, it looks like they'll definitely take the clean sweep. Unfortunate that Carter didn't make the last event. I think it would have been really fun to see if he could have risen to the top. But I think also Wayne here wants to hold on to the lead. And even if Wayne had finished in second position to Carter, I think Wayne would have still taken the overall.
Hayden, now that the camera's on him, making as big of an effort as he can manage. What is even going on with Gil? I saw him just 50 watts there for a second. It's
poor Gil. He's like I said, I think his bike fit needs to be a little bit different as well. So he's probably actually struggling more with the bike fit than anything else. And honestly, that's a big deal. When you get set up in Smash Cycling, you do want to get set up appropriately. Otherwise, your legs will not like you very much. And so I think maybe Gil's suffering a little bit from that. Tight spaces up there on the stage. Definitely fun for us here viewing, but probably a little less fun for the riders themselves. So at home, just make sure you get all of that set up right spot on. It makes a big difference.
Just a little bit over 1 kilometer before we finish this race. Wayne in the lead.
Well, and I think if Amelia passes him here, Amelia's got a shot at the overall. So I'm going to try and stoke the fire here for Amelia and see if she can get past Wayne and take the overall.
And remember, there is that 2.5 multiplier, so everything is riding on this stage. We just have a few more turns to go before we reach the top. And I think on the final downhill section, that's where we saw the crashes last time. So one final crash could actually be the ticket to an upset for either Amelia or Terracotta.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Wayne has been pretty steady. He's crashed a couple of times out there, but been very steady.
Almost toward the summit, just 1 or 2 more turns, and then Wayne will have all downhill to go.
But Amelia's right there, so this is going to come right down to the end. I saw a little smile there as she got on the wheel, a little bit of satisfaction, and then Wayne probably put in a little bit of a kick. Cycling can be very mental, and so sometimes what you want to do is let somebody catch you and then go hard, because at that moment they get sort of an elation that they've caught you and they think they're in the game, and then you put the hammer down, and that can really take the heart out of somebody.
You can see them all lined up, 1, 2, and 3. Moving into the final stress, half a kilometer to go.
Oh, Wayne using a wind at your back power up on the downhill. dangerous play. So we'll see if he hangs on here as he hits some of the tight corners near the bottom of this descent. This could be the play that hurts him or takes him to the finish all by himself.
Certainly looks to be the latter right now. Just
corner caper. So he was never worried, not for a moment. So well played.
Almost toward the finish line, just has one more turn to go after this. And then he'll have a straightaway to the finish line to end the Smash Cycling tournament, secure himself first place.
Wow, Wayne just using all of the power-ups.
Which I think was probably a little bit of the mental you were talking, allowed the others to catch up and then just used everything he had.
Yeah, absolutely. Well played.
All right, where he made a strong showing early on and finishes first place in the most valuable race that there is for this tournament. And there goes Amelia and Terracotta also finishing solid second and third. Doing a good job and sweeping the podium.
It looks like they did some effort. I like the head down on the keyboard, on the handlebars. That means you've earned, you probably could have some chocolate cake today. Mm-hmm. You've earned it. Carter looks like he's deserving of some treats as well. Wayne looks pretty...
You know, he's been the most chill this whole day, despite...
Wayne's like, I'll have some water, and I'll go out for another hour and ride my bike.
All right, so that just about wraps up the Smash Cycling Tournament. A quick look through the camera with the cinematic focusing effect as well. All of them will just check their pulse, make sure everything is good before we get to the final award ceremony.
Yep, I would imagine Wayne's heart rate was probably still lower than everybody else's. That's what you see when you're fit. Great recovery, and so a great showing by Wayne and Idaho, University of Idaho.
Bit of a celebration up on stage, and I do see we have an update coming in, probably with the final standings for us to confirm.
That is correct. Boise State, 216 points. University of Idaho, 561.
And some good sportsmanship there from the Broncos, some fist bumps, nice to see. Congrats to the Vandals for pulling out a very excellent performance on Smash Cycling Racing. Certainly was fun to watch, and we won't talk about the person who didn't score any points whatsoever. We'll just move right on over that.
He's appreciative, I understand.
He has his star, and that's all he has. Not 1 point, but he has his star.
I like that it's a gamer tag and not a regular name, so he does maintain some anonymity.
All right, well, that just about does it for the tournament. I want to get your final thoughts overall of how you think this went, and if you have any final closing takeaways you want to leave.
No, it was great to see the collegiate athletes out here performing on Smash Cycling. Very fun for us, and be looking forward to getting their comments for what they thought as well.
Well, it certainly was fun for all of us to watch. We want to thank you for joining us. And, of course, don't hesitate to check out Smash Cycling if you want to get involved in this competitive community and all it has to offer. But as for us here in the arena, we all know how it turns out. Vandals sweep first, second, and third. Congratulations to them for coming down to Boise and showing up the home team. For now, though, we got to get out of here. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Maybe do some bicycling while you're at it. We'll see you next time here at Boise State Esports. Thanks for watching.
His power-up is probably going to, really good skill there by Wayne. So Wayne's got both energy in terms of power and endurance, and it looks like he's also got the strategic skill.
Carter also making moves, is now in fourth, and Wayne takes a spill. around the OSHA compliant.
That would be painful in real life. I've done it myself numerous times, and it's never any fun.
Terracotta also takes a spill, so even the top players are really starting to take spills.
Short periods of time you can go above 421, but if you try and maintain that for very long, your body just starts building up lactic acid and shutting down. And so basically 421 would be sort of the sweet spot for what you could hold for an hour.
Amelia making moves, has now positioned herself.
For those techie types out there, and so that's both sides. The Formula C side tends to be more curated. We'll see some of those. I think we see Cade Kart Paris, which is like inside a warehouse in a karting course.
Oh, a nasty jump. Getting very close to the end. I mean, has over a minute and a half lead on all the others. Is going to use his cornering power-up to just take this corner at high speed. Finish line in sight. Less than a tenth of a kilometer to go, and I'm pretty confident in saying that's been on into the final home stretch. I think he's gaining little by little. Has to slow down. I think this section right here, it's the straightest section before the finish line. Oh, and he crashes, takes a nasty spill. Hayden's going to secure third place for the Broncos.
They're covering the Tourmalet, so on and so forth. Alpe d'Huez, you'll see in the game as well.
I do hear from Doc. He's saying get ready, so we're loading in, ready to start. Your marks, get set, go, and they are off. Amelia taking the early lead.
Their work, and as long as he stays at the back there, he will save energy, and this is 3 laps, so maybe he'll make his move sort of halfway through or maybe 2/3 of the way through.
He's already making one.
Yeah, he's got
into third.
He's got to stay with those front guys. Oh, Terracotta, that hurt from the event due to some inactivity. You have to sort of keep pedaling in the game to sort of stay there, so that's a bit unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate as the Broncos' only hope fizzles. So now, oh, off the edge, 2 of them.